It's time to mind your business with me, Jamillah Lodge. Tune in to find out how to mind your business with BEDC, special guest entrepreneurs, industry experts, and more. Brought to you by BEDC. Bermuda Business starts here. Welcome, Siobhan.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me here on Mind Your Business. And today we're going to be talking to you about your role as the Assistant Commissioner for the Office of the Privacy Office?
The Office of the Privacy Commissioner
for Bermuda.
Yes.
Okay. So before we do that, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, at the core, I'm a mom, a wife, a daughter, a sister, a friend. But I also, of course, wear the hat of Assistant Commissioner for Engagement and Policy. And so I'm the head of the Policy and Engagement Unit at the Office of the Privacy Commissioner's Office. Well, the Office of the Privacy Commissioner for Bermuda.
It's a mouthful,
it's sort of a mouthful,
right?
Yeah. But outside of that, design thinking, I'm a practitioner. I believe people first. And that's been a common theme throughout my entire career, if that makes sense. As well as I'm a big advocate on DEI, as well as transparency and fairness with emerging and future technologies.
Okay, what's DEI?
So diversity, inclusion, and equity.
Okay.
You know, especially because of this space that I'm so passionate about with technology.
Right.
That's really important to lean on.
So it's interesting because now you work for the Office of the Privacy Commissioner, but we met when you had your own entrepreneurial endeavor. But it was still in the privacy and technology. So can you talk a little bit about the difference? What's the difference between working for the Office of the Privacy Commissioner and when you were running your own entity?
Well, I mean, to be fair, because again, it's sort of a lateral move in terms of the content, what I talk about and what I've been doing. So training, consultation, coaching, and things of that sort is still the same.
Yeah.
I think the biggest and exciting part of it is when you're running a business, you always have that overhead thought about keeping your business afloat.
That's right.
Where when you're working for a public entity, you can put your focus again on the people.
Right.
And so that's what I've been able to do now that I've come into this public service role.
Okay. But it's still the same, right? Like the content. So you still get to utilize those things that you mentioned in your intro about what you're passionate about, diversity and inclusion and all of that, and people.
Absolutely. And see, TLC was built on consultancy. So it was always the vision that Tahira and I had that we would not stop growing ourselves.
Right.
And so this move was, something that could have happened on either side.
Right.
She could have moved into something so that she could continue to expand her reach with cybersecurity. And so, I saw this as an opportunity to give more in data protection and privacy.
And we need it here in Bermuda, so.
I'm enjoying it. It's good.
So talk to me a little bit about the role that you play. Like, what is it that you do?
So coming into a startup, whether it's your own private business or a non-ministry type of entity, you're always going to have to pull your sleeves up and kind of dig in. Whatever needs to be done, you get it done. So for the first 6 months of my time in the role, it's been a lot about creating what engagement looks like for the organization. So I do a lot when it comes to guidance and creating training. And training for PriveCom is different to training that would have been delivered when I was with TLC.
Is it?
Because TLC would be looking more at the practical, how do you do certain things, training in terms of that.
Right.
But as a regulatory authority, we lean more on training about the application of the of privacy and security in general. So a lot of the training are things like supporting vulnerable with privacy best practices. We've got a training coming up in September that's on leveraging Bermuda's cultural norms with privacy best practices. So a lot of people now, I think, have a good understanding, or they're gaining some level of understanding on privacy and security.
Thanks to you guys.
Well, I mean, there are other people that have been doing good work in the community. But, people are starting to wrap their head around it. A lot of people know much more than they did years ago. And so seeing the same same song about just PIPA is not going to ring the same with everyone.
Right.
But what actually works really well is just making it about the conversation. How does that look in the day-to-day, which is what privacy is really about.
Okay, and I think it does help, because for so long we've been kind of talking about this. We've had Alex White, the Privacy Commissioner, on Mind Your Business as well to talk about PIPA and when it's coming. And it's always been like this thing that's looming over here. We see it, but it's not here yet.
So, it's the $1 million question,
right? Exactly. And so I think now, as it moves closer, as it becomes more of a reality, and you have new roles like yourself, to actually engage with the public and help them to understand what it's gonna look like for them. I think it's really good, and it's important for our stakeholders who are small business owners to understand what's required. So does your outreach include them?
Of course.
Okay.
It includes the entire community. So we've done work with small, SMEs. We've worked with nonprofit as well as with, the corporate sector.
Okay.
Because again, we're not government. We're an independent entity that's there to support the community. But I want to make a point really quickly, and that is that I like to kind of take the conversation away from PIPA. Now we've been singing that song for a bit of time.
Yes.
It's ringing in everyone's head, and if anything, it might even cause a little bit of anxiety not knowing when. What's more important to me is that privacy and security is embedded in your business, whether PIPA is in operation or not.
Right.
And so a lot of, again, the training, the coaching, the support that we offer is not geared to the regulation.
Right.
It's geared to
best
privacy
practices.
and security. Exactly. Because no matter what size business, what type of business, what sector, privacy and security are just as important as everything else. Your accounting functions, your legal functions. You have to think about privacy and security now.
So talk to me a little bit, because I like to keep it, let's talk in layman's terms. Like when we talk about privacy and security for the stakeholders that we serve, like our small businesses, what do you mean when it comes to that?
And that's a good question, because privacy, if you really look at privacy, there are so many different types, right? So of course our interest is information privacy, particularly personal information and sensitive personal information. A clear difference between PETI and PIPA, and that's a question that's often asked. PETI is an acronym for public access to information. PIPA is Personal Information Protection Act. So when you're thinking again about the day-to-day functions of managing information, that's where PIPA comes into play. So whether you're from collecting information, and that could be, of course, online. It could be in person. It could be over the phone. It could be at an event. When you're collecting information, you really have to think about now, how are you safeguarding it? Where is that information? How long are you keeping it for? Who has access to it? I like to talk about the art of reciprocity when I'm talking sort of in layman terms, right? So when you think about how you want your information to be protected, if you really put that into context, you can understand why every client and every staff member deserves the same thing. And so really it's about considering, how would I want my data to be collected, my information to be collected by another entity, and what can I put in place to make sure that my business, my clients, again, my staff, any stakeholders, that their information is protected the same.
And so your organization supports stakeholders with the how-tos of how to do that, because I think people are thinking they're doing the right thing, but they're not. If I use the example with COVID and all the restaurants and stuff, for contact tracing, you had to leave your name and your telephone number on the clipboard in the front where everybody can see when you write. So like in my mind, the little that I know about protecting customers' information, I'm thinking, well, that doesn't seem right. But,
and you're right.
But in the defense of the restaurateurs, they're doing what they've been mandated to do. But is there another way? Is there a better way that they should have been doing that? And so it's like, do you provide those? Okay, yeah, collect the information, but perhaps do it this way.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So again, we're not stopping many entities from doing what they do,
right.
if that makes sense. It is a matter of being creative, thinking outside the box sometimes of how to do it. So it's not a sacrifice of people's personal information, privacy, just so that you can do your business, and vice versa. You see what I mean? So there is a way that we can kind of leverage what organizations need to do their business with best practices, and also creative ways. Again, when you think about design thinking methodology, is again about trying on solutions, and if it doesn't work, you try another one. And that's the great thing about it.
Very entrepreneurial.
Of course, you have to be that way in this day. You have to be agile. All the time, to be fair, in this day and age. And so again, yes, it's about how do you do those things. And so the trainings, supporting vulnerable individuals, leveraging the norms with privacy best practices, that's what it's really focused on. Not so much, what does PIPA say? But more so, how do I do that? What does that look like?
Yes, the practical implementation. How do you actually do some of the things? And I think people, when they get to see it and feel it, it sinks in better, right? Than just sitting and you're listening to the, all the terms, all the acronyms. You're like, if it's one more
I like
acronym.
To say Charlie Brown's teacher, wop, 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 wop. It's just, you lost the person a long time ago.
Exactly. So I do think, especially when it comes to something so serious, like privacy and cybersecurity, we have to figure out a way to make it digestible for the average person, and in our case, the average business owner. So I'm so happy to hear that you're going to be having these workshops and seminars. So the one in September, again, is going to be focused on what?
So that's on cultural norms. All of the sessions, to be transparent, are already booked up. But what we offer is, no. We offer private sessions free of charge to entities. So if you have at least, 5 to 10 people and more, but for some of those sessions, many of them, we like to keep them pretty small, about 20 people. We're more than happy to offer a few sessions as opposed to just one. And, some of them are 2-hour sessions because it's very interactive, very hands-on. And then some of them are more of an hour, just sort of a quick understanding of what's what. We also have our online training. It's a very basic course, PIPA and Privacy 101. And that one is like a micro course. It's pretty easy to complete. It gives a good understanding of privacy and PIPA. It's led by Alex, the Privacy Commissioner. So it's always nice to see his face talking about privacy. And then, we have, again, coaching sessions, consultations that can help individuals. So again, when you attend our training, it's not necessarily going to be an immediate, I can now go and put that in place right away. It's going to get your juices going. It's going to start having you think about privacy, because it's not a one-size-fits-all.
So what is your recommendation to someone, like you said, who's taking the course? They know they need to step their game up and put some things in place to protect their clients' information and their own information. What would be that process be? So I'm gone to the seminar or the webinar, I've looked online, done the one-on-one. Now what? Like what's next?
I mean, in this space, you can never stop learning.
Okay.
It's constant. In the span of just a few years, over 150 jurisdictions have put data protection and privacy regulation in place. Mm-hmm. So there is always something to learn.
Okay.
I encourage the thought process of holistic data protection. So that encompasses privacy, data protection, and cybersecurity. Mm-hmm. Privacy, you think more of the legalities. Data protection, you think of the practicalities. Yeah. And then cybersecurity, you're thinking more of the security side of things. Okay. And so you can't really have one. They do stand alone, but there's overlap.
Right.
So it's smart to embed sort of that thought of holism, when you're thinking about putting your privacy program in place. So continuing to learn, looking for more outlets to learn more about data protection. Right. You really, as a first step, need to think about what type of information do I have have in general?
Right.
How much information do I have that falls under the personal information category, and how much falls under sensitive? Okay. You want to think about who your audience is. How many vulnerable people? What are the categories of those vulnerable people? How are they,
I just want to stop you to define the vulnerable people.
I knew you was going to say that.
Right? Because I'm like, so people know what you're talking about when you say that.
Absolutely. And you know what? Often when you talk about vulnerable, all of us are vulnerable to some extent, right? Okay. But I'm talking about people who can't necessarily advocate for themselves, where there's an imbalance of power in some situations. So an employee could be a vulnerable person because they want their job.
Right.
If you have employees that are not legally working, particularly when you're talking about decisions around consent, it makes it difficult when you really need that job.
Right.
When you're talking about children. And the legal age of consent for information sharing in Bermuda is the tender age of 14. Think about how many decisions are people younger than 14 making online.
That's right.
I have 2-year-old twin nieces. They want your phone so that they can look online. They're that smart. But they swipe away the ads and they do things. So I was just talking to a parent the other day, and I was encouraging her to start embedding sort of age-appropriate training around privacy to her children. Just as
that
they can
so
start.
Interesting, because you wouldn't think. I mean, you put the parental controls on, and you take off the YouTube on the iPads and all that kind of stuff, but actually having that conversation, right, with your children, I don't think we ever really thought about it like
true.
that.
I mean, think about, if the camera comes on by mistake,
right?
Do you need them to turn that off right away? Or do you need them to tell you that somebody has asked for them to put their camera on?
Right.
If you don't talk to them, how would they know? Right. They're kind of navigating the cyber world on their own.
Yeah.
And, we often talk about Bermuda as another world. Well, as soon as we enter cyberspace, we're no longer another world.
We with everybody else.
And we embrace globalization in every way. We learn online, we work online, we shop online, we have international business, we have hospitality. We no longer can we hide behind Bermuda is another world. We have to be thinking with a big picture mentality.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I mean, knowing your data is paramount. You have to have, at the very bare minimum, you have to have a privacy officer in place under PIPA's mandate. But what the world is seeing as we continue to evolve in the data protection space is one person can't do it all. It's a lot of work. Especially a lot of people are trying to combine that with their job, their existing job.
And I would say that would be the case for a lot of our stakeholders,
of course.
Right?
And that's why I wanted to mention it. Because it's very easy to say, do you know what? I'll just do that.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, though we may think privacy and data protection is common sense and easy, just from experience offering courses, the amount of people that have been shocked to see that there's so much more than you thought.
And I'm one of those people, okay? Because I took your course, and I was just like, what now? What? It's a lot.
But look at how empowered you feel now.
Right.
Even you're not going to remember everything that we talked about, Jamillah,
but I know some
know enough to at least advocate for yourself. To know that them asking you for your information at a restaurant on a clipboard where you could see that Siobhan Joe was there before you is inappropriate. There are many things that a restaurant can do. Whether, tablets, they're using tablets to take your order nowadays. Put the person's information in the tablet. That way, the next person doesn't see it. If you are using sort of a manual process, fold over the page. At the bare minimum, you could do that so that people cannot see who was there before them. So there are little things that you can start thinking outside the box. And you don't have to do it all on your own. Again, we offer...
that's what I was going to ask, because I know we're always encouraging our stakeholder, our entrepreneurs. It's like, know what you know, be good at what you know, but then recognize when you don't know something, and you seek out the support as needed to get what you need to get it done. So in this instance, you're saying your office
right now it's free of charge. We don't know if it's always going to be a free service. Every everything that I'm talking about today, Jamillah, is absolutely free. The training, the consultation, the coaching, it's all free. Right. Privacy careers. Some people are now thinking, hey, maybe I want to go into a privacy career. The boom industry, as Alex talks about. Yeah. Why not? Those conversations.
We're going to need them, right? If you're saying that the individual can't be the business owner and the marketing manager and the privacy officer, then they're going to have to identify someone to fulfill this role,
right? So you might have a privacy officer. You might have a privacy lead or several privacy leads. You might have a privacy champion. And so their role may be to be the ear, the voice from the bottom up, or they could be the top down, because a champion could be C-suite, or it could be, anyone in an organization. So really thinking about the structure of your privacy team and your privacy program. What needs to go into your privacy program? Because every entity would look a bit different.
Yeah, it would do. But the fact that I think what's important to share is that it is necessary to identify someone or an organization that can support you. And in my mind, that's what I think the same way people like outsource maybe their marketing or their IT or their accounting. In my mind, I would say that they would be outsourcing their privacy.
They can do. PIPA allows for multiple entities to share a privacy officer. It also allows for an officer to outsource their functionality. What you cannot outsource, though, is the responsibility and the accountability for privacy and security. So you can pass on the functions of the privacy officer, if it's supporting with access requests and things like that, or helping with your policies and procedures, which is another top thing. If it was 3, it would be privacy officer, know your information, and make sure that you have reviewed policies, procedures, or you've embedded privacy and data protection in your new policies and procedures. Those are really important.
And is there a template for that?
The thing is, there are templates that exist, but templates aren't always the best fit for an entity. You have to be very careful what one entity, what is important, or what fits the culture of one entity may not be a perfect match to your organization. And so really making sure that it aligns and that you've combed through it, made the tweaks and all of that is so important.
So example, I'm a business, I know I need to do this, I'm going to identify a privacy officer, I have this template, can I bring it to
You sure can.
your office and be like, this is what I do, I've identified this is the information that needs to be protected. Can I utilize this template, or what changes need to be made?
Absolutely. You can find a template, you can get in touch, you can book a consultation, we can go through it, I can send you away and you can come back and we can take another look. We also have something really special called the Pink Sandbox Initiative, and that's for entities to work very closely with us. It's really about getting us involved early in the process. So as you're thinking about building your program, or, you can never be prepared for every scenario or situation with privacy and security. So as those things come up, you can reach out and we can provide a bit of support and guidance. So that is something that entities are now starting to take advantage of. You can imagine we can't take everyone. So there's an application, and then we look to see how we can support. And then we go ahead and work directly with the entity.
And is the application online? Or
the application is online. Another tool that's super useful and online and free of charge and was only launched yesterday.
Well, look at that.
Is our Privacy Rights Best Practice Guidance Handbook tool.
Perfect.
You can go on there. There are a bunch of different privacy situations, whether it's informing individuals or dealing with erasure and different things like that. We've got sort of best practice. It's only 3 to 4 points, so it's very easy to follow. There's an accountability check with 1, 2, 3 questions. So you can see, am I on the right track towards compliance?
I think that would be a valuable resource, because I think the issue is, like you said, it seems so like
broad.
Broad, and it's like so much information, you don't know where to start. So to have that as a guide to kind of tell you, okay, these are the steps that you need to take, I think it's perfect.
Yeah, and you know how my unit is about engagement?
Yeah.
That's because it's really important for PriveCom to develop a relationship with entities. It is very broad. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
There's so much to talk about. An hour is just not enough.
Right.
There's so much to learn. I mean, one course is just not enough.
That's right.
So don't try to go at it on your own. That's my point. We are there to help you along the way.
Right.
So as you're building, as you're developing, as you're wrapping your head around things, you can be in touch with us and we can be helping you along the way. Okay. The same on the other side in terms of individuals that may have concerns about things happening in the community. So I have to mention that.
Yeah, that's a good point because, of course, I'm thinking from the business owner standpoint, but then there's also someone, like you mentioned, vulnerable people. If I feel like I've been taken advantage of or my information has been compromised, like what next?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So best practice would be to first approach the organization and see if they can, solve the issue or at least make you feel a little bit more secure and make sure that trust with the entity is still, concrete. But when you're not satisfied and you feel like maybe your voice isn't heard, hasn't been heard, you can reach out to the Privacy Commissioner's office. Now, at the moment, of course, we have certain powers we have in place under PIPA 10, I call it affectionately. Okay. So PIPA is not in full operation, as we've discussed, but there are 10 parts that are. Those 10 parts have to do with the appointment of the Privacy Commissioner, the recruitment of his team, and today we actually welcome Tiara Webb. She's just joined my unit. I don't know if you know Tiara.
Yes, I know Tiara.
She's just joined the engagement unit as our marketing and engagement officer.
Awesome.
So we're growing our office. Yeah. So, of course, that's the recruitment of the officers, as well as, I had a senior moment. So
the other 10,
yes, and also the powers of the Privacy Commissioner's office. So at the moment, we don't hand out orders and notices to entities, but we can advocate on behalf of individuals and organizations. So you can get in touch with your concern and we can then get in touch with that entity. I call it a 360 concerns management process. So for us, it's about learning what the issue is, getting enough information about it, speaking to that entity, giving them tips and guidance on how to deal with this type of situation. And in the end, we'll feedback sort of what we've done so that the individual can, again, keep that trust in the organization. Bermuda's too small, Jamillah.
Sure
we can't have people going around blacklisting organizations.
We can't.
So we want to try to avoid it. We are the friendly organization that's trying to make sure that people are empowered and organizations are supported and empowered to protect people's information.
Because, I think we want to operate from the basis is no one is on purpose trying to infringe upon your privacy or your personal information.
But we want to believe that.
Yes, we want to
believe that. We do have
some
scenarios, which we will cover during the Leveraging Bermuda's North. Of course, you have situations. Bermuda is so small.
It is.
You can make a call to a company and say, hi, I'm so-and-so's daughter. Can you give me all of my information? And you get it all. You could call someone and, based on who my son's father hasn't paid child support. Does he still work there? Bermuda has sort of that
familiar. That's what I would say. It's like a half a degree of separation in Bermuda, so it's very difficult. So when I'm saying I don't think we do it on purpose, it's just like you said, the cultural norms. That's what we've been used to doing. Right. It's funny, and my son is getting ready to go to university,
Wow.
University of Southampton.
Is that grown already?
Grown. I don't know what. So anyway, he's going, and so I just reached out and said, "Can you provide me a list of hotels in the area that we can?" They were like, "We cannot disclose anything. We cannot tell you. We cannot approve or deny that this person even attends the school." I said, "I did not ask you for," but they take it serious over in the UK. They are not giving you any information about anything.
There are some jurisdictions that, and most of them that now, like I said, we've got over 150. So whilst we can sit there and PIPA is not in full operation, small businesses need to consider that GDPR is,
That's correct.
LGPD in Brazil, it is. is, Canada, is a lead when it comes to data protection.
Yeah.
Very forward thinking in that space. Across Asia as well, we've got a number of jurisdictions with data protection regimes in place, and they are quite strict. Many of them also include what's called extraterritoriality or extraterritorial scope or reach. And that means that if you are a resident in that country and you are visiting Bermuda, your information is protected under their regulation. That's right. And so they can exercise some of their rights that are under that regulation while they may be here in Bermuda. They may also, if they have a concern, they could report it to their supervisory authority or their regulatory body in their country. That will likely get in touch with our office at PriveCom, and that's how you have that, again, extraterritoriality. There's a lot of work. It's not fully developed in terms of that on an international scale. But it's something that people here in Bermuda and entities, particularly small ones, need to be mindful of.
Listen, if y'all don't know, now you know. She knows her stuff. I wish we had more time to go into everything, but I think today you have kind of encapsulated what your office does, what you do, and the role that you play. And I think it's good to know that you have tools in place that can be found on the website to help and support the stakeholders that we serve. That, I think, is huge, right?
And that's something that, again, we've developed over the past 6 months. We'll continue to grow. And that's what I ask of the community, that you recognize that this is a startup, just like the SMEs, that, the small businesses here, they're building, we are building at PriveCom. And so, there are teething pains, there are, things that we will be learning along the way. And so we want to grow with the community. And so I don't want the community, particularly businesses, to feel as if they have to have everything perfect and in place. It's about growing and developing and utilizing the tools and resources available.
So, Siobhan, what is the website and what is like the email address or anything like that they need to contact to get more information?
Sure. The website is privacy.bm, so www.privacy.bm. There you'll find the micro course, so you can do that. You'll get a badge once you complete the course.
Like a little badge.
Of course. You'll also see some of the courses that are coming up. Again, all the training events are all full at the moment. They're all been booked up. But that doesn't mean we can't do it privately for your organization. And we're more than happy to offer it through BEDC for your stakeholders as well.
Okay, perfect.
And then also you can book coaching, consultation, all of that under services on our website. The email to get in touch with engagement is engagement@privacy.bm. And we'll be more than happy to support.
Well, look at that. Well, thank you so much, Siobhan. We minded a lot of business today. And I have to say, because if you don't mind your business, who will?
Who will? Absolutely. And protect your business.
Well, okay. Well said. You heard it right here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me, Jamillah.
All right. Thanks for tuning in to Mind Your Business with me, your host, Jamillah Lodge. Tune in next week, Thursday at 4 p.m. because if you don't mind your business, who will? Mind Your Business is brought to you by BEDC. Bermuda Business starts here.